Leandra May. You are all welcome. And also joining the Minister on the podium is the Acting DG of GCIS, Ms. Nomonde Mnokwa. Without any waste of time, let me invite the Minister in the Presidency to lead this press briefing. Thank you very much. Minister.
Good morning. The problem with Cape Town, we don't have a proper podium, so I don't have space for my tablet with the amount of mics that we have. But good morning to yourself. Sure. Don't kill me. I'm trying to create space so that I'm able to read the statement. And no, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You've got hot mics, so we need to avoid the hot mics. If I'm this distant, will you be able to catch from your own mics? You're fine? Okay. Good morning. As I have indicated to you, we are presenting the post-cabinet statement for the cabinet meeting that took place yesterday, the 28th of May 2025, on issues from the environment, on international affairs. We start with the SA-US relations. Cabinet welcomed the reset of strategic relationships between South Africa and the United States during the President Cyril Ramaphosa's working visit to the United States of America on the invitation of President Trump. The SA and US teams will finalize the details of the trade deal between South Africa and the USA. It's safe to emphasize that the objectives that the SA team had set for the trip have been met. Cabinet looks forward to the continued participation of the United States administration in the G20, including the possible attendance of President Trump to the G20 Leaders Summit. On South Africa-France relations, Cabinet welcomed the working visit by Deputy President Paulos Mashatile that strengthened relations between South Africa and France. The Deputy President and the SA delegation also attended the SA-France Investment Conference with a view to improving investments by French companies into South Africa and vice versa, and also establishing partnerships between South Africa and the French companies in joint investments on the African continent through the African Continental Free Trade Area. On the economy, the national budget, Cabinet affirmed its support for the 2025 national budget as tabled by the Minister of Finance on Wednesday, 21st May 2025, which details key spending priorities over the next 3 years within the country's fiscal envelope. The national budget has demonstrated our commitment to fiscal discipline. We have shown that we are steering the economy in the right direction that looks after the most vulnerable in our society while investing in economic activities through investment of 1 trillion rands towards infrastructure over the coming 3 years. This pro-poor budget means on every rand, 61 cents of consolidated non-interest expenditure funds will be spent on free basic services like electricity, water, education, healthcare, affordable houses, as well as social grants for those in need. On the Sustainable Infrastructure Development Symposium South Africa, SIDISA 2025, Cabinet welcomed the successful conclusion of the Sustainable Infrastructure Development Symposium South Africa 2025, which was held in Cape Town from the 25th to the 27th of May 2025, which saw the unveiling of the country's second edition of the construction book, a repository of funded infrastructure projects for procurement in 2025-2026. During the symposium, the new top 7 infrastructure project priorities stemming from the bid window 1 for project preparation were announced, uplifting our nation's drive to use infrastructure to grow the economy, create jobs, and build sustainable communities. The total value of projects currently in construction in the country is over 313.5 billion rands, while our energy sector infrastructure project pipeline includes 180 billion rands of embedded generation investments. On crime and justice, crime prevention and security, on the crime statistics, the release of the fourth quarter crime statistics for the 2024-2025 financial year confirms that crime remains a societal issue in South Africa, which affects everyone. The statistics indicated a decline in some categories of crime, including murder. However, sexual offenses, including rape and other contact sexual offenses, have increased, including commercial crime has increased. We commend the South African Police Service for the speedy work in investigating and making arrests in the cases of gender-based violence and femicide. The South African Police Services have already made arrests of suspects in the murder of Olurato Mungale, a Wits University student whose body was found after going on a date with her alleged killer. We extend government's condolences to her family and her friends. We also welcome, which is the judgment that was just released now. Government welcomes the judgment handed down by Judge Nathan Erasmus in the Western Cape High Court, sentencing Kelly Smith, Jacqueline Apollos, and Stefano Ryan to life imprisonment for human trafficking with an additional 10 years for kidnapping related to the disappearance of 6-year-old Jocelyn Smith. While this sentencing brings a measure of justice, it is a bittersweet moment. We remain steadfast in our commitment to uncovering the truth and ensuring that the law enforcement continues to pursue every possible lead to find Jocelyn. The protection of children is a national priority. We will continue to strengthen our laws, partnerships, and community efforts to ensure that every child in South Africa is safe, valued, and shielded from harm. As government, we will continue to intensify our fight against crime by recruiting and training new officers and reintroducing specialized crime-fighting units. This includes equipping our law enforcement agencies with modern tools and training which are required to tackle today's complex criminal challenges. May I have some water, please? On combating illegal immigration, the launch of Operation New Broom is the latest technology-driven initiative by the Department of Home Affairs, which serves to combat illegal immigration and demonstrates government's commitment to fight crime and maintain the rule of law. The initiative uses technology to arrest, convict, and deport illegal immigrants from the country. Excuse me. The operation has, in its first phase, led to the arrest of 25 suspects who occupied land illegally in District 6 in Cape Town. The initiative uses biometric technology to verify the immigration status of suspects, eliminating the risk of fraudulent documents and making it easier for the courts to conclude cases. On governance, today marks exactly a year after the national and provincial elections, whose outcome meant that there was no clear political party who won outright majority. That period created much uncertainty for South Africa and the world. Today, as a government of national unity, we are proud that we were able to form a government within 14 days, an outstanding achievement given the period taken by some first world countries to form a government in similar situations. This milestone symbolizes a renewed commitment to stability, collaboration, and inclusive governance. This historic partnership, comprising 10 political parties, has demonstrated the power of putting the nation first by prioritizing the needs of South Africans and its people. Through constructive dialogue and compromise, the parties have worked together to address pressing issues, fostering a sense of unity and shared purpose, despite our different ideological outlook. On cabinet updates, on the G20 summit preparations, the G20 summit leaders, the G20 leaders summit venue. The G20 leaders summit will take place in Nasrec Expo Center in Johannesburg in November 2025. The Nasrec, which in full is the National Agricultural Sports and Recreation Event Center, was built in 1984 at the height of apartheid segregation. Its location between Johannesburg and the southwestern townships, which now are simply known as Soweto, represented the boundary of the city with its movement restrictions and the beginning of Soweto, which served as a reservoir of black cheap labor. The democratic government continues to develop the Nasrec precinct to serve as a bridge against the apartheid spatial planning divide that separated the developed and the undeveloped South Africa, which remains a true story of a true character of South Africa, of two countries in one. Today, developments around the Nasrec precinct as a smart city, which also hosts Soccer City, commonly known as the FNB Stadium, which is South Africa's national stadium, which is very symbolic. The Soccer City, which hosted the first Soccer World Cup match in African soil, is amongst the top 20 largest stadiums in the world. Therefore, the hosting of the G20 Leaders Summit at Nasrec, like many other events in the Nasrec precinct, continues to contribute to making Nasrec a symbol of spatial reintegration towards an equal South Africa. If we had time, I would have wished to borrow the statement from Minister Lamola when he welcomed the foreign ministers at Nasrec when they held their first meeting there. Maybe during the answer and question session, we'll do that and how he characterized Nasrec. And G20 summit preparatory meetings as part of the ongoing G20 content preparations as we work towards decisions that must be considered at the G20 Leaders Summit following G20 meeting. The following G20 meetings were held. First is the second Global Partnership for Financial Inclusion meeting, which was held in Mpumalanga and deliberated on the importance of advancing financial inclusion by providing financial support to micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as how best to use technology to include underserved populations. The W20 Inception meeting, hosted by Human Science Research Council and its partners in Cape Town, and provided an opportunity for various task teams to discuss various issues that affected women, including the role of women in the economy, GBVF, access to education, and health equity. The third Infrastructure Working Group meeting, held in Mpumalanga, focused on productive cross-border infrastructure, scaling sustainable investment via blended finance, and building investable project pipelines. The second meeting of the G20 Initiative on Bioeconomy, held in Mpumalanga, and deliberated on leveraging the bioeconomy to address economic growth, sustainable development, environmental protection, and social equity. The G20 Research and Innovation Working Group and Engagement Group meetings, which were held in Mpumalanga, reviewed the progress made on the 10 deliverables that were agreed upon during the meeting held in KwaZulu-Natal and focused on priority areas of the Development Working Group with the aim of reaching consensus on addressing pressing developmental challenges of our time and accelerating the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals. The Agricultural Chief Scientists meeting, or the MAX meeting, which was held in Limpopo, discussed actionable strategies on how countries around the world can strengthen food security, sustainable farming, and climate change through innovation and scientific collaboration. The G20 seminar on early childhood care and education, which discussed placing early childhood care and education at the heart of the global education agenda. The G20 seminar on mutual recognition of qualifications in a global context discussed issues that are critical to shaping inclusive and globally competitive educational systems, such as international labor migration, skills mobility, and the evolving role of micro-credentials in lifelong learning and employability. Lastly, the second Education Working Group meeting, which was held in Northwest and discussed providing quality and inclusive education for all learners. Also on the G20 Social Summit, South Africa will soon unveil its G20 Social Summit plan and program. The G20 Social Summit initiative is part of the program adopted from the Brazil G20 initiatives, which created a platform for social movements and civil society organizations who are impacted by geopolitical and microeconomic decisions made by leaders of the powerful group, such as the Group of 20 countries. On cabinet decisions, the National Labour Migration Policy 2025 White Paper, Cabinet approved the National Labour Migration Policy White Paper of 2025 for implementation. The policy seeks to provide a framework to enforce proper and orderly movement and employment of foreign nationals in the country. It aims to achieve a balance across several areas, including addressing South Africans' expectations for job prospects in light of rising unemployment and the perception that foreign nationals restrict labor market access. The National Labour Migration Policy 2025 introduces quotas on the total number of documented foreign nationals with work visas that can be employed in major economic sectors such as agriculture, hospitality, and tourism, as well as construction, amongst others. The policy complements other interventions, such as the enforcement of a list of sectors where foreign nationals cannot be allocated business visas, and amendments to the National Small Enterprise Act of 1996, which limit foreign nationals establishing small, medium, and micro enterprises and trading in some sectors of the economy. On the bills, Employment Services Amendment Bill, Cabinet approved the Employment Services Amendment Bill for submission to Parliament. The bill provides a policy framework and the legal basis to regulate the employment of foreign nationals in businesses while promoting national security and national interest. The purpose of the bill is to propose the regulation of labor brokers to prevent worker exploitation, such as the provision of cheap labor through undocumented foreign nationals. It further creates consistency between the provisions of the Immigration Act of 2002 and the Refugees Act of 1998. The bill proposes a framework that will enable the Minister of Employment and Labor to set quotas for the employment of foreign nationals. A quota may apply in respect of a sector of the economy, an occupational category, or a geographical area. The Minister will establish a quota sector after consulting the Employment Services Board and considering public comments. Cabinet directed the Minister of Employment and Labor to speedily finalize the mapping through consultations of what constitutes scarce and critical skills in order to develop a domestic skills base to improve absorption of more unemployed South Africans. Cabinet reiterated the need to fast-track the finalization of the white paper on immigration for the effective administration and management of labor migration. On appointments, all appointments are subject to the verification of qualifications and relevant security clearances. Cabinet approved the appointment of Mr. Matsobane Themba Matlou as the Chief Executive Officer in the South African Social Security Agency, known as SASSA. Cabinet approved the appointment of Ms. Okhalaletsing Anastasia Khaarekwi as Deputy Director General, Intergovernmental Relations at the National Treasury. Cabinet approved the appointment of Mr. Christopher Charles Axelson as the Deputy Director General, Tax and Financial Sector at the National Treasury. And also Cabinet approved the appointment of Ms. Ulrich Breton as the Deputy Director General, Public Finance at the National Treasury. On boards, Cabinet approved the appointment of board members of the Unemployment Insurance Fund, commonly known as the UIF, as followed. Ms. Zodwa Penelope Manasseh as the chairperson, Mr. Edward Malumeja Tobejane from Organized Labor, Ms. Matli Keita from Organized Labor, Mr. Malisela Moses Likota from Organized Labor, Ms. Zizile Lushabanyawo from Organized Business, Mr. Hilary McMaster from Organized Business, Ms. Beverly Jack from Organized Business, Mr. Teminkosi Josopu from Organized Community, Mr. Khumbudzo Mpanza from Organized Community, Ms. Paulette Sisedi Pilu from Organized Community, Mr. Mahuza Ngubane as a representative of the Department of Higher Education, Ms. Okhalaletsing Anastasia Khaarekwi as a representative of the National Treasury, Ms. Nsimi Esther Kloana as a representative of the Department of Employment and Labor. Cabinet also approved the appointment of the board members of Sentech as follows: Ms. Sazani Mudau as the chairperson, it's a reappointment, Mr. Temba Piri, Mr. Mbasa Matesu, Advocate Lavendra Gopal, Mr. Patrick Wadula, Mr. Peter Zimri, Ms. Alexandria Proctor, and Ms. Lwazikazi Nopekle. On events, commemoration of key months and national events in 2025, Cabinet approved the themes and concept documents for the commemoration of key national events that will be taking place over the next few months as follows. On Youth Month, the 2025 Youth Month program will be launched at the Hector Peterson Memorial and Museum in Orlando West, Soweto in Gauteng, under the theme Skills for Changing the World, Empowering Youth for Meaningful Economic Participation. The focus of the 2025 Youth Month program will be a call to action to address youth unemployment and build an economy that prioritizes the country's youth. The month will be used to highlight the available learning and job opportunities in industries with high absorption capacity and that are in demand for young people. On Women's Month, Cabinet approved the theme and activities for the commemoration of the 2025 Women's Month program. This year marks the 30th anniversary of the 1995 Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, an important reflection on women's rights, empowerment, and the pursuit of gender equality. The 2025 program of Women's Month will focus on implementing proactive measures to prevent GBVF, promote healthy, respectful behavior and attitude among men and boys, and create workplaces and environments where women and girls feel safe. Cabinet reiterated the call to all South Africans to stand up and confront the scourge of GBVF. On 16 days of activism against gender-based violence and femicide, the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence and femicide will take place from the 25th of November until 10th of December 2025 under the theme Empowering Change, Scaling, Prevention, Promoting Positive Masculinities, and Ensuring Safe and Inclusive Spaces to End GBVF. This year's campaign will continue to address the root causes of GBVF while promoting positive masculinity and gender equity, along with creating economic opportunities for women and children. Disability Rights Awareness Month, Cabinet approved the concept and the theme for the 2025 Disability Rights Awareness Month which runs from the 3rd November to 3rd December. The theme is creating strategic multi-sectoral partnerships for disability inclusive society. The theme emphasizes the importance of partnerships towards promoting the rights and participation of people with disability in society. The month-long activities will raise awareness and also showcase progress the country has made in ensuring that the rights of persons with disabilities are protected. This will include promoting the voice of children with disability, unlocking digital opportunities for persons with disability, and investing in strategies to promote disability-inclusive jobs. On messages of condolences. Cabinet expressed condolences to the family and friends of the following: Mama Gertrude Ntiti Shope, who was affectionately known as Ma Shope, a stalwart for our liberation struggle, who was part of the first cohort of democratically elected members of parliament in 1994. She was also a member of the Order for Meritorious Service in Silver, awarded in 2003 in recognition of an exceptional public service. Further, Ma Shope was a founding member of the Federation of South African Women, FEDSO, which mobilized women to fight against the unjust, brutal, and racist apartheid regime. She was elected the first president of the ANC Women's League in 1991. President Ramaphosa has declared that Ma Shope be honored with a special official funeral, Category 1, and that South African flags across the country and in all our stations must fly at half-mast until her funeral service on Saturday, 31st May 2025. We send our condolences to the family or friends of Ms. Lungi Annette Mganga Kabashe, who was a member of parliament at various periods since 2004 and served as a chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Tourism during the 7th Parliament, meaning the current Parliament. She was also the current Deputy President of the ANC Women's League. She fought against the injustice of apartheid and played an active role in mobilizing communities for peace at the height of political violence in KwaZulu-Natal. The award-winning actor, Presley Chweneyagaga, who became known for his extraordinary acting abilities in the film Tsotsi, which won the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film in 2005. He featured in many films and television drama. At the time of his passing, he was popular in his role as Kobrizi in the popular television drama The River. To the family and friends of veteran broadcaster Darren Scott, whose voice shaped South African radio industry for over 4 decades and was in 2024 inducted into the Radio Awards Hall of Fame. To the family and friends of celebrated former Springbok winner Cornal Hendricks, who played 12 test matches for the Springboks between 2014 and 2015 and scored 5 tries. To the family and friends of Charles B. Renzo, former and long-standing U.S. congressman from Harlem, New York, who in 1987 sponsored what became known as the Rangel Amendment that changed the U.S. tax code to deny foreign tax credits to U.S. companies investing in apartheid South Africa. He also used his influence to help open trading opportunities between the U.S. and developing nations through the Caribbean Basin Initiative and the African Growth and Opportunity Act, commonly known as AGOA. To the family and friends of renowned author Ngungi wa Thiong'o, who died age 87, who was a giant modern African literature specialist. His writings documenting the transformation of Kenya from a colonial subject to a democracy was inspirational to all across the African continent. He's often quoted in seminal work, and his work continues to inspire the development of the African continent. He will be remembered as one of the greatest literary giants from the African continent. May their souls rest in peace. On congratulations, Cabinet extended its congratulations and well wishes. Of course, the athletics team, South Africa, I don't know where to start. They are just fired themselves. They say no DNA, just RSA. Sprint sensation Akani Simbini, currently the fastest athlete in the world, who won the 100 meters at the Atlanta City Games at 9.86 seconds and the 100 meters at the Rabat Diamond League in a time of 9.95 seconds. Oh, our baby, the junior sprint sensation Bayanda Walaza, who set a new South African record in the men's 100 meters, clocking 9.94 seconds at the Boris Hanzekovi Memorial. He is the fastest young man in the under-20 category in the world today. Viva Bayanda Walaza. And we know we are preparing for the future. When Akani leaves, Bayanda will be stepping into those big shoes. South African athlete Zakiti Nene, who finished second in the men's 400 meter, clocking a solid 44.46 seconds at the Rabat Diamond League. He almost got gold, and the Achilles heel at the last minute made him to de-escalate. We are confident he's going to take it. And who needs Bafana when we've got Amajita? Then under-20 national soccer team who made history by winning the under-20 Africa Cup of Nations title for the first time. We are going to be fine in football. We can't host the largest stadium in the African continent and not lead, but Amajita are there. They are going to redeem our status. To Reino Nel for making history as the first South African and African ever to claim the prestigious World's Strongest Man title. Congratulations to all South Africans. No DNA, just RSA. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister, for the statement and the words of congratulations. We are a sporting country. Minister, maybe without any waste of time, let me try to invite questions. Firstly, we'll start in the house, and then we will go online. The drill is the same. You'll identify yourself, media house, and then you go to your questions. So maybe in this order, I'll start 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you. There is a mic just next to you. Just press the red one. And if it's not there, use your voice as a shop steward.
Good morning, Minister. Jason Felix from News 24. Minister, I just want to ask you a question. I think it's more a question on a personal level. When you were in the Oval Office with President Trump and the rest of Team South Africa, what was your personal feeling like? And judging from the opening statement of the cabinet statement, it appears that you are saying that mission was accomplished. Was it indeed so, Minister? Thank you.
Good morning, Minister Lindsay Dentinger, Eyewitness News. Just on the budget, you said Cabinet has reaffirmed its support for this version of the budget. This morning we learned that the EFF plans to go to court again next week, this time over the fuel levy. How will government be handling? Thank you.
Morning, Minister. Paul Vikiota from Bloomberg. I'm glad to see sport gives you a sense of humor. Minister, back to the Oval Office and so on. You said that the South African news teams are working on a trade deal. Could you give us some idea when do you expect a deal to be finalized? Is it going to take 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, whatever it is? Has there been a deadline set? And then could you give us some idea about what South Africa's offering and the expectations? I know, but for instance, one of the big questions is, are we going to sign some kind of minerals deal with the United States? Thank you.
Thank Thank you, Minister Lula Mamaja, SABC. A follow-up on the cabinet support of the budget. Does that mean now that all the GNU partners will vote in favor of the budget? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will give the Minister the platform. Respond to the questions. Thank you.
Just to declare upfront, I'm a sports fanatic, so if I could go to stadiums to cheer, you will not even find me in suits. I'll be in what they call extra strong. I'm that one who loses my voice when it doesn't matter whether it's athletics or not, but I'm just a sports fanatic because sports has played a very critical role in our country to unite us and make us one nation. And if I may quote Bayanda Walaza, in one of his interviews, and as a young man, very perceptive, he says, look, the Springboks are carrying the nation and uniting the nation. It's our responsibility now as athletes to also join and carry the nation and unite the nation. And I found that very profound from a young man and very perceptive. On the personal feelings of the Oval Office, yes, our mission is accomplished. And then I'll deal with those questions, related questions. I'm sure you saw the op-ed that I penned in terms of the highlights of what's in some of the things that are in the trade deal. Of course, we'll have to discuss the tariffs and also including the non-tariff barriers. We have proposed that we need a quota of 40,000 vehicles manufactured in South Africa to enter the U.S. with in the current arrangements of no tariffs, and they want that discussion. There was a discussion around the critical minerals. Is everybody's interest. Yes, there's a discussion around the critical minerals, but you should know that you'll remember that in the last cabinet meeting we announced that we have approved a critical mineral strategy, and that our mineral strategy is driven from the fact that we are no longer exporters of sand and rock. We are going to beneficiate at source or nearest to source. So that discussion must be framed within the provision of our critical mineral strategy, that beneficiation is at source. And you know that there are licensing requirements for you to mine in South Africa, and we have indicated that the quickest way, if you want, because they have shortage of serious mineral like magnetite that does magnets and so forth. If they want, they must partner with those who are already holding a license, exploration licenses for such minerals or mining licenses in that matter. Are there timelines? There cannot be firm timelines because agreements will be reached at different stages, because it's a basket of offerings that have been tabled through the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, working with the Department of Mineral Resources and Petroleum, Department of Agriculture, Department of Energy, and other departments in that space, and those who have to be involved, of course. So the deals will be signed as they are finalized, because you can't say, for instance, there's a discussion on poultry, discussion on pork, and discussion on citrus. If we close a deal around pork, because we are the net importer of pork, if it is closed tomorrow, why should it wait for a discussion, of course, on LNG gas that may be closed in 2 months' time? So as the areas of agreement are reached, it will be implemented. And we of course, the U.S. remains one of our strategic partners, so we'll want to conclude those as speedily as possible. On whether all GNU parties will vote in favor of the budget, we've always expected that to happen, but they are political parties. You'll need to ask them individually, because as I've indicated, in all the times that the Minister of Finance has gone to present the budget, there've always been agreement inside the cabinet of saying this is the budget we are going to support, despite its weaknesses, and political parties do other things. I don't want Bulela to hold me accountable for the DA deciding now they are no longer going to vote for the budget. No, you will have to ask them. But in cabinet, we agreed all and supported the budget provisions that were tabled to us. On the fuel levy, the EFF is going to court. I do not know the papers, what the EFF have served, but we've always had a fuel levy in this country as government, and shortly we'll come back on what is the implication on the fuel levy on the fuel prices in the country, because, and as we try to mitigate the high cost of living in the country, but they can go to court. They are entitled to go to court, but it doesn't stop us proposing a budget. The fuel levy has been part of the budget of South Africa since time immemorial. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. Let me check if we have any follow-up questions from the House. We don't. Let's move then quickly to the online questions. I'll ask my colleague Nandipa from GCIS to assist with reading the online questions. Nandipa.
Thank you. Good morning, Minister, and the members of the media that are present here this morning. Online, we have 5 questions, and the first questions come from Karen Duplessis, and she asks, thank you and good morning. Does the Minister know who is representing South Africa at Russia's 13th International Security Summit in Moscow? It was from 27 to 29 May. Did SA send a minister or a deputy or perhaps an official? That is from Karen. The second question reads from Natasha Piro, SABC News. The issue of crime in the country is a major one. It was also highlighted in the Oval Office last week, which has put the issue of crime in South Africa in a bad light. Is government thinking of redoubling its efforts in tackling crime? Then the third question comes from Sharon Mhlongo, Bulletin News Flash Agency. Is Cabinet confident that President Trump will attend the G20 summit? And what implications would his presence have for SA's foreign policy? Next question is from Takane. This one is divided into 2. Takane Mhlongo from East Radio. The Cabinet promises to address youth unemployment and GBV every year, yet the numbers still increase. What will the difference? What will be the different about the 2025 programs? Second question: before the Minister Khumbudzo Ntshavheni left for the U.S., Solidarity had given the minister a week to withdraw what they say are defamatory statements about them, or they will take her to court. Will the minister apologize? And the last question online is from Lehlohonolo Lehana Fulvio. Minister Ntshavheni was quoted saying government considered Starlink long before SA visit to US. Is this a confirmation that SA government is giving special dispensation to Elon Musk Starlink, despite his accomplished mission with white genocide conspiracy in SA? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Bevy of questions.
Let me start with the last one. I think I don't know how South Africans try to listen. We have never considered Starlink. I have never said that. I said South Africa considered developing or introducing satellite technology in the country. In 2022, as a minister responsible for communications and digital technologies, I gave a directive to ICASA to undertake a market study for the introduction of geosatellite technology and LEO satellite technology. Geostationary satellite technology is the geographic stationary, earth stationary technologies. They're above those ones that you don't see. LEO is the low orbit satellite technologies, which are called the LEOs. And that market study was supposed to check what should be the regulatory framework for South Africa when that technology gets introduced. Because, and I remember the VC of VETS, Prof. Zeb, once said, it's a blast from the past when we're having that discussion, because satellites have been there before and now they're coming back to offer better technology. So it is not Starlink, it's the satellite technologies. And in that study, we also wanted to check, is there regulatory amendments that are required? As we speak, ICASA is undertaking public consultation on that work that they've done from that market study around satellite technology, both GEO and LEOs. I've not read what was their findings of their market study because I moved from that department. And by the way, satellite technologies, including LEOs, Starlink is not the first satellite technology out there. There are a number of satellite technology out there and in this country. We must be very clear about that. The Cape Peninsula University of Technology, they have been shooting up nano satellites that are helping the country to look after the shorelines. And that necessitated our work in 2022 to say what becomes the regulatory framework so that we can also support our own sovereign capability and national security and our ability to introduce. In 2022, the conversations were including the telecommunications companies to say, given the cost, do we share? Because, for instance, if you introduce the GEOs, it only makes sense if you can have the two GEOs because they'll orbit out of the area. The other one must always be orbiting in. So when one orbits out, the other one must orbit in. And on the LEOs, they are proliferated. The other necessity for undertaking a market study and deciding a regulatory framework for LEO satellite technologies in South Africa, the work we commenced in 2022, is because South Africa hosts the SKA, and I'm forgetting what the full name of SKA is square kilometer array in the Northern Cape. Those skies must be protected from any interruption because we need to be, we have guaranteed the world community that ourselves and Australia, can't remember the other country, will protect free skies and clean skies so that they can do atmospheric and weather prediction and all sorts of things that are done through that technology. That is the work, so don't misinterpret us. What I've said on record is that Chinese have better technology in terms of LEOs, the low orbit satellite, than Starlink. That's what I've said on record. I never said we are introducing Starlink. And for the other official record, there was no discussion of Starlink at the White House, even during the luncheon discussion. The discussion that was there was about magnets, because for those things to go up, for sound, for the EVs, you also need magnets, and there's a world shortage of magnets. On the question about a letter from Solidarity, I can confirm I've received the letter. I can't answer further. I don't have parliamentary immunity where I stand now. I don't know why we want to equate the visit of President Trump to South Africa's foreign policy. South Africa's foreign policy is not anti-USA. President Trump will not be the first president of the United States to come to South Africa. President Bill Clinton has been here, President George Bush has been here, President Barack Obama has been here. The United States remain our strategic partner and amongst the largest trading partners. So there is no implication. Security-wise, it means we must beef up security. When the leader of the free world and presidents of the United States are called leaders of the free world, when a leader of the free world visits your country, the security must be heightened. So if indeed President Trump comes to South Africa, security around him and security around other presidents, you know, we are all sovereign, we are all equal, but Some are more equal than others. So the security needs to be heightened. It's like President Xi Jinping being here, you have to heighten the security. And if you were a security broadcasting contingent and there was no live broadcasting, we'll be telling you how we move presidents, how we make sure they're protected. But with the security, if it comes, the security will be heightened, like the security will be heightened for all the foreign dignitaries that come through. On the issue of crime, the redoubling of effort, those who have read my op-ed will have indicated that as the security cluster, we are more than redoubling our effort to deal with the crime challenge in South Africa. And I think there's an acceptance and an acknowledgement that crime in South Africa affects all of us. It doesn't matter whether you are in suburbia, whether in the township, whether you are in a village. The rate is simply unacceptable. As a cluster, which I also am a member of, we have a responsibility to deliver as directed by the President. The President in 2023 instructed the security cluster to come with an integrated crime prevention plan that will tackle the high crime rate, organized crime, but also deal with petty crimes. That's why the police introduced Operation Shanyela, which has been doing high numbers. We are dealing with a multiple approach on dealing with extortion and kidnappings, which have been also on the rise. The police at some point won the fight against cash in transit highs. There's been a slight resurgence, but their success, they are ramping up those efforts to deal with those type of crimes. You'll recall at some point, cash in transit was the order of the day. You were even afraid to go to an ATM because there will be ATM bombings. But we have been winning. But we need not only the police, we need the communities to also partner with government in the fight against crime. So crime, we all accept that we have to be dealt with. And the question on the Russia, the 13th International Security Summit in Moscow, we have sent the highest delegation that we could possibly send. I was supposed to attend, but you understood that I arrived from Washington on the day the conference, the other side was starting. I'm just one person. You can't lend and travel, and even the hours were just going to be ridiculous. My friends and family are sending me notices here to say they see exhaustion and hear exhaustion on my voice. So, but we have sent the highest level of delegation. We have also communicated with my counterpart about the reasons of my absence, and we've continued to engage with our counterparts in the Russian Federation. So we are fully represented and duly represented at the right level. I'm checking if I've done all the questions. I think I've covered. Can I have an indication I've covered all the questions that were asked in terms of the online questions? Okay. In closing, I need to announce what we were waiting for the family to announce. Unfortunately, the country has also lost one of the freedom stalwarts, Dr. Dean Chenwani Simon Farisani, a former member of parliament, a former MEC of transport in the province of Limpopo, a Lutheran priest. During the apartheid period, he was one of the country's most prominent black clergymen and preached anti-apartheid liberation theology from his diocese in the Deborah Lewa Circuit, which is present-day Bembe and part of Peter Mukaba. He founded the Black Evangelical Youth Organization with then Cyril Ramaphosa, who's today President Cyril Ramaphosa, in the early 1970s, and he was also active in the Black Consciousness movement and also he served as a president of the Black People's Convention from 1973 to 1975. He was arrested on 4 occasions, according to Amnesty International, as a prisoner of conscience. And he was tortured, and he was banished and exiled. When he was exiled, him and his wife were taken away and left their 3 kids, including a 3-month-old baby boy, who, when they had to travel to find their parents, they landed in Munich because they are with the Lutheran Church when they were supposed to land somewhere else. And the kids were lost in airports on their own without parents for a couple of weeks until the church sent. He died this morning. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you.
May the soul of the departed Dean rest in peace. Thank you very much, colleagues, and that brings us to the end of this briefing. Have a great one. For any other questions, I think we are available offline to clarify some of the issues, but I think the Minister clarified all the issues. And thank you very much, and have a great one.